Hello there, welcome to the channel. Today I want to show you my method for removing a broken wheel nut on a Jag. This probably applies to some other cars as well. We've got a Jaguar XF here and we've had a couple of wheel nuts that have been over tightened and it shears the end of the nut off. Now I've watched some videos online how to get these apart and some of them are quite crude, and I think this method that we're going to use is a nicer way of doing it with less risk to damaging the wheel itself. So basically what we've got is, this is the wheel nut without the protective cap on it. There's just a silver protective cap that fits on these from standard, and what happens is when these get over tightened or get corroded, sometimes in a garage they do the wheels up with a hammer gun and they over tighten them. So when you go to undo them, what happens is this shears off here at this point here and basically leaves you with this part of the nut which you can't get anything on, and the washer. And these are a flat engagement with the wheel, not a taper. So the first thing you do is you'll turn your spanner and all of a sudden it'll crack and you'll get that come out with your piece of nut inside, and then you're left with what we've got in here. So if you want to come and get in there, you'll see what we're left with in the hole. So you've just basically got nothing to get a spanner or any sort of a wrench on to get that undone. Now the biggest problem you've got is if you're not careful removing this, you're going to damage your wheel. So what we're going to do today is use this method that I'm going to show you to get this wheel nut off and remove this wheel, and then we're going to replace the wheel nuts with these. I found these on eBay. There's quite a lot of people selling these, and basically what they are is a solid nut. There's no protective cap, so they're much stronger and less likely to break. So we'll start the video off and I'll explain what I'm going to do. So all I've got here, I've got let me just check what size I've got on here. Right, this is a 19mm or 3/4 inch hole saw, and I've just got it in my battery drill. I've got it set on the slowest speed. I've got a little piece of plastic tube which I'm going to put on the end of the stud that's inside the wheel here, and the object of this is to stop the teeth of the cutter from damaging that stud, and it helps align the cutter. And then basically we're going to take it nice and steady. If these get too hot, they burn out, so you want to go nice and slow, and I'm going to use plenty of lubricant on there as we go. And just take your time and just keep a nice steady even pressure on there, and try and keep your drill square and not angled or anything, so otherwise it will start to wander off and you could damage the stud. But the idea really is to drill through this part of the nut here until we get to the washer, and then what should be able to happen is we should be able to pull the wheel off, and that will just leave this part of the nut on the stud, which we can then get off with, if it's loose with our fingers. If it's tight, we can use a pair of mole grips or pliers or whatever. So I'm going to make a start now. I'll spray a little bit of WD on there and on the cutter, and we're just going to go real nice and steady now. Nothing too fast, just getting this lined up. That's it, and then away we go. And that's as fast as you need to go. And once you've got your cut started, the drill bit, the cutter will go back into that slot, and all you've got to do is, to say, maintain that, keeping it squared. You just go nice and gently, keep a nice even pressure on it. have another look. Yeah, it's still cutting nicely. A bit more lubrication. A bit more lube in there. Just to stop this from getting hot and burning the tips out on the cutter, and obviously it's not as effective once it gets blunt. This is a variable speed drill, and just by squeezing the trigger you can determine what speed you want to cut at. You might have to fast forward this bit. Yeah. It is boring to watch. There you go. There's your broken wheel nut there. Off comes the wheel. And as you can see, just left with a few cobwebs on here. It's not been off for a while, this wheel, obviously. And then you're just left with this piece here. As you can see, it hasn't damaged the stud. So all I've got to do now is get a pair of grips on here, loosen this off. I'm going to spray a little bit of WD on there just to be penetrating in. Just pause it there for a minute, Ali. Right, so now we've drilled off the head of the nut, removed the wheel, we're just left with this inner part of the nut, and I've put a pair of mole grips on there, and then it's now starting to come loose. So it might be possible, yeah, it is possible just to unwind this by hand. And if you can zoom into the stud, you'll see there's no damage to the stud, so you haven't got to worry about replacing the stud. And you can see the remains of the nut. So we've not damaged that. And if you show the wheel, you can see in there, you can still see the swarf in the hole, you can see the bottom of the hole. There's no damage to the wheel itself. So that, I think, is the best way of doing this if you have a broken. They're quite common on these Jags because they have these flat seats, but there are some other cars out there that this method would work. It just depends on the design of the nut and the type of wheels you've got. But I hope this has been helpful for somebody, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Bye for now.